All right. Hi guys, welcome to today's lesson. Today is going to be on sexual dimorphism. So as you can see here, we have a picture of two mandarin ducks, and oddly enough, one of them happens to be female and one of them happens to be male. Now, they look very different, but they are still part of the same species. And today we're going to talk about how that's possible and why. Why do they look so different? So before we begin, here's a quick recap of what you should have learned earlier this year. Animals have traits that are passed down through generations, as the individuals with the best traits for survival make it to adulthood and pass on their genetics to offspring. Natural selection affects the transfer of traits, as only those with the best traits make it to adulthood, and in some cases, less desirable traits will actually die out or become less common because they're not reproducing as well. For most species, females decide who gets to mate. They will carry the babies and raise them, and in some species, the males don't stay at all to raise the young, so they want the best mate to produce the healthiest babies. So, what exactly is sexual dimorphism? This right here is probably the most important part of the lecture. Make sure you write this down, have it memorized. Sexual dimorphism is the occurrence when a male and female of the same species have different appearances or structures, allowing them both genetic advantages to drive reproduction and survival. The important part is that they look different, but they are part of the same species, and all of these traits have an advantage to reproduce or survive in nature. An example of this is how male deer have large antlers to fight off males or predators. And while it's common for males to evolve traits to become more appealing to female mates, this is not always the case. So here we have what I have made a diagram of. This is a group of cattle. As you can see, we have two females shown in the red, two males shown in the black, but then we have one larger male shown in the blue. If this little bar go away, there we go. The larger male shown in the blue. Now, they're going to start getting ready to breed, right? It's mating season. One male and one female are going to go off, and they're going to have babies. One male, however, is not going to have a mate because there's not enough females, and his traits were not as well prepared. He's just not strong enough or well prepared enough to be a parent. Maybe next year, but not right now. And then we see one of the females pairs up with our larger male, the one in the blue. So now we can look at their offspring. The regular male and the regular female are going to produce a regular male and a regular female. Maybe they would have had more young if they had better traits and they were more prepared, but odds are something happened to at least one of the young, and they have two children. Totally fine. But over here, our male in the blue was stronger, gave his children better traits, and maybe all three were able to survive into adulthood. Maybe his advantage is that he is faster than other animals, so he's able to scare away other threats. Or maybe they're just able to grow larger, so when they encounter tough situations or environments, they're just able to survive better because they're better prepared. And now we can look at how these offspring, if we put them together, form a new group of cattle. And as you can see, two of them now have that larger trait. They are now more prepared, and the next generation will continue to be more prepared because the better traits get passed down. And unfortunately, this guy here that wasn't prepared, his traits don't contribute as well because he just wasn't as evolutionarily advanced. So, how is this beneficial to a species? Well, in nature, males compete for females' attention. Because pregnancy is difficult and the mothers will care for the babies after they're born, they want the best for their children. Female animals want their kids to have good genetics, and oftentimes they want strong partners to help them protect their young if the male will stick around. The traits brought on by sexual dimorphism are a great way for females of a species to find a suitable mate. Those with the strongest traits, such as flashy colors, large antlers, etc., show that they are strong as an individual and will be a good choice to co-parent. So, can you think of any species that exhibit this? Jot down as many species as you can think of onto a scrap piece of paper and hold on to it. We are going to be coming back to this. So take a couple of seconds and write down as many as you can think of. And remember, one example I said was a deer. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that. Make sure you hold on to that paper. Okay. All right, and we're going to move on now. So now we've brainstormed a few species. Do you think you can identify which of the following options is male or female? And remember, this is not being graded. This is just for participation. So first up, elephant seals. Which one do you guys think is a male or female? The big difference here is, as I'm sure you can tell, the nose. But can you tell which one is male or female based on that trait? I'm sure a lot of you are guessing female, and some of you are guessing that this one over here is male. And you would be correct. The female is the one that does not have the large nose, and the males do. But I'm sure you're also wondering why. And there's an answer for that. The large proboscis on the end of their nose actually serves multiple functions. One, the large nose actually amplifies the sound of an elephant seal's roar. The louder the roar is, the more threatening they are, therefore scaring away other threats. Females use this to recognize who will help to keep them the safest. The nose also helps by reabsorbing moisture as the seal breathes, therefore helping to prevent dehydration and giving them a better chance to survive to adulthood. Next up, we have Eclectus parrots. So one of them here is this bright, vibrant green color on the left, and on the right, we have this bright red color. So take a second, which one do you think is male or female? And oddly enough, the male is green and the female is red. So Eclectus parrots have seemingly both developed sexual dimorphism instead of just the males. The reason for that is female Eclectus parrots tend to stay back at the nest and watch the young defending the house, or nest, sorry. Male Eclectus parrots tend to fly out in search of food. Therefore, females have evolved to be a bright red color as it's more threatening to predators, and males evolved to be green because it helps them blend into foliage while foresting. So they both have a reason for their change, and even though they look so different, they both have advantages. They've just developed differently. Next up, we have anglerfish. So the one over here has this little glowing appendage off the top of their head on the right. And it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but the one with the little appendage is also much larger. So which one do you think is male and which one do you think is female? Well, oddly enough, the male is actually the much smaller one and the female is the one that is actually much larger. The larger the parrot is actually the female because they have the glowing appendage that anglerfish are known for, and while it does help them to see, it also helps males to find the female as well, because where they live down in the deep ocean, it's not very bright. They can't see very well. So when mating, a male anglerfish will bite into the side of the female and share his bloodstream and nutrients with her. Females can carry up to 6 males who attempt to mate, and she carries them around with them until they're done. The males almost form a parasitic symbiosis relationship with females, and they both require each other to survive and reproduce. Next up, we have cardinals. As you can see over here, one of them has this bright red color, and the other one has more neutral beiges. So which one do you think would be male, and which one do you think would be female? All right, male is the red one, and female is beige. I'm sure you guys probably could have figured that out based on what we've gone over so far. But the reason for it is male cardinals become a brighter red color when they have good diets. More nutrients lead to more pigment, so this evolutionary advantage of color is a way of displaying to other birds that they have been successful and are therefore a good candidate to be their mate. They've been able to find enough food so they can provide for their family more. And lastly, we have stag beetles. The main difference here is on the left, you can see they look like a normal beetle, but on the right, they have these large antlers coming out the front, this like red color antler coming out. So which one do you think would be male and which one do you think would be female? And I'm sure you could have guessed the males are the ones with the antlers. As we saw with deer, it's about the same thing. They use the large horns for combat with other males. They fight for dominance along with each other, and those that win are more likely to find a female partner. The larger the horns are, the more likely it is that the beetle will win, as it can do more damage to its opponent. However, this is also one example of when the trait brought on by sexual reproduction can actually inhibit the survival of the individuals. In some cases, the horns on a male stag beetle grow so large that it becomes difficult for them to travel through their underground tunnels. So while it may help them with reproduction, it may actually be more difficult for them to survive. And this is an example of the runaway selection hypothesis. So now we understand why it's important for all animals, and it allows the process of survival of the fittest. It will show not only who is strong enough to survive predators because they've made it to be a mature adult, but it also shows mates who have the best attributes for their young. And as we talked about on the last slide, are there any downsides to this phenomenon? And the answer is yes. Sometimes the runaway selection hypothesis can be seen. And once again, this is a very important definition. Make sure you know this. But the runaway selection hypothesis is when a trait from a species progresses so far that it begins to inhibit the organisms. Over here, we have an example of long-tailed widow birds. The female is in the back and the male is in the front with this very long feathery tail. And the males evolved to have long tails for breeding. The more that they have, the more feathers in their tail, the longer, the healthier. It shows that, they have better nutrients. They were able to grow that much. And the females know that they are suitable mates. However, the tails can also get snagged on branches, making it harder for the birds to get away from predators. So for some species, such as widow birds, I believe. This is an undesired outcome that happened accidentally due to the selection of mating in the past. But sometimes this is a good way for the females to see that the mates are strong enough to survive even with this handicap. By giving themselves a handicap that makes survival harder, those that are able to live to maturity have proven that they are worthy of mating due to strength, resourcefulness, sneakiness, etc. So in this example, it's the tail. We saw the horns in the stag beetles. There are also examples such as birds that have such bright colors that it's hard for them to hide in public, and like in nature, they can't find anywhere to camouflage. There are so many examples, but it's just a way of showing that sometimes it helps in one area and hinders them in another. So let's do a quick recap. Sexual dimorphism is an important system found in nature in which animals evolve traits to help in sexual reproduction and survival. It leads to the male and female organisms of a species having different traits. These traits, when successful, create healthy offspring that will grow up and continue to pass down the trait, leading to a stronger species over time. Sometimes these traits can develop too much and become a handicap of the species, otherwise known as the runaway selection hypothesis. So here are some key vocab terms and ideas you need to know. Sexual dimorphism, traits, natural selection, the runaway selection hypothesis, the idea of predator and prey, and the idea of survival of the fittest. If you guys are having any trouble with these, feel free to reach out to me or another student. Make sure you go back into your notes because these are the key things that you will need to know from this unit. All right, and next up is our homework for this lesson. So since the topic is sexual dimorphism, you are going to be doing a research paper. You'll have 1 week to do it, but I'm recommending that you do it fairly quickly while it's still fresh in your brain. You're going to be writing a 1-page research paper on a species of your choice. You can refer back to the list of species that we brainstormed earlier that I had to hold on to. The paper should include examples of your species and a few paragraphs written about what their evolved traits are, as well as whether or not their example of dimorphism is beneficial or if it has drawbacks. You will have time to be working on this in class, and you can choose to do it with a partner, so you can bounce your ideas off of each other, and if you need any help, I will be there, but it will be due in 1 week. And your paragraph should be between 200 to 500 words with cited sources. If there are any other questions, I will be taking them now, and if not, you guys are all set to go. Thank you.